Hey guys, welcome back to another Should You Pull Weapon Banner edition. Today we're looking at the weapon banner that was released in 3.1. For Cyno and Venti, we have the Elegy for the end. And for Cyno, we have the Staff of the Scarlet SANDS. So we're going to take a look at these weapons in depth, and as well as the 4-star ones, and see if they're worth pulling or not. So let's start with the weapon that is Cyno's signature weapon. So we have crit rate at 9.6%. We saw that in the trial. It was level 80 and it gave him around 40-ish percent crit rate. Obviously at level 90 it's going to be maybe like 43, 44 maybe, around there. And a much higher base attack obviously. And let's take a look at the weapons effect, which I am blocking a little bit. But Heat Haze at Horizon's End. The equipping character gains 52% of their elemental mastery as bonus attack. When an elemental skill hits opponents, the Dream of the Scarlet Sands effect will be gained for 10 seconds. The equipping character will gain 28% of their elemental mastery as bonus attack for a maximum of 3 stacks. This is an insane amount of extra damage for your Cyno. We're going to talk about using this weapon with Cyno first and foremost, right? Since this is supposed to be his weapon. If you're not familiar with Cyno's kit yet, or you haven't tried him out, he is a character that you want to prioritize elemental mastery for. This makes it so that your attack percentage increase that you would normally get isn't lacking behind. In fact, you're going to get a lot of bonus attack from this weapon. So you get 52% of your EM as bonus attack straight up. That's just going to be on all the time. When you activate Cyno's burst, there are intervals where you will be using his skill consistently, so you will be able to get the maximum stacks very consistently. So that's 28% times 3 at refinement 1. If for the whales out there, if you want to refinement 5 this, you will be getting a lot more extra attack bonus from the stacks. But 28 is already a good amount, and you get 3 stacks of it. You'll get an 82% bonus attack based on your elemental mastery. Now remember, getting a lot of elemental mastery on a character, it can be challenging because getting a main stat elemental mastery artifact can be, RNG gated, but it's doable. Like, I've shown my Kazuha, who I went heavy on elemental mastery, and he has about 800. Now, don't forget, for Cyno, they just released the Gilded Dream set. This artifact set is going to give you, assuming he's the only Electro on your team, and he should be, this set will give you, you'll get over 230 elemental mastery from using the Gilded Dream set, assuming he is the only Electro on the team. Not to mention, as a cherry on top, with this weapon having crit rate as its substat, you don't have to go hard on the crit rate for your artifacts. You can go hard on crit damage. Now, of course, you might still want to get crit rate as a substat on some of your artifacts, absolutely, but you definitely don't need to go hard on making sure you get a lot of it on your artifacts, since the weapon is doing it for you. I feel like as long as you get 50% crit rate on your Cyno or anyone that's using this weapon, you're good. Speaking of other characters that can use this weapon, not a lot come to mind. Like, it could be a good weapon on other people, but the thing is, most likely you already have that character built, or you already have a better weapon for them. So for example, like Hu Tao might be able to get a decent value out of this because elemental mastery on her wouldn't be bad, but you would have to redo a lot of your artifacts, I'm sure, and it wouldn't be that great overall. But another character, maybe Zhao, but again, elemental mastery on Zhao is not something you really go for. I can't really think of too many other characters at the moment. Raiden Shogun, maybe. Like, a lot of maybes, but there's not like any other character where it's like, wow, this is a really good weapon for them. So for now, I would say this weapon is definitely really good for Cyno, but not really good for other characters, so keep that in mind. However, that could always change in the future with new characters being added, and who knows, it could be really good for some 4-star characters as well. Let's move on to the other 5-star weapon, which is the Elegy for the end. Now this is Venti signature weapon, and it is definitely a good one. It's a solid support weapon. Let's look at the very, very long weapon effect, but I'm just going to summarize this for you since I'm very familiar with this weapon. It straight up will increase your elemental mastery by 60. And then when your elemental skill or burst hits an opponent, you will get basically this buff called Millennial Movement. It increases your elemental mastery by 100 and increases your attack by 20%. This affects all of your party members, not just the person wearing this weapon. So this is a weapon that's good for your sub DPS or your supporting characters. Now this is actually a really, really good weapon to have because it works on so many different characters, as I just said. So if you have fish, great for fish. Obviously Venti is going to take advantage of this. Amber, if you're using her as a support. Basically, any non-main DPS bow-wielding character can use this weapon and will benefit your team for it. As long as you don't have multiple teammates using this, because it doesn't stack, right? You do get energy recharge, which is really, really nice for more consistent burst uptime from your supports. You also get elemental mastery from it. Kali, again, would also be a very good wielder of this bow, since it gives her energy recharge, but as well as basically 160 EM on it for free, which basically is about, you know, it's a little bit less than you get from the stringless. It's a tiny bit less than you would get from a stringless, by the way. So when you have a fully activated Elegy of the End, this is the stringless at level 90. You only get 165. You get 160 from the Elegy of the End, but you get way more energy recharge. So I think that's a good trade-off for 5 EM. But yeah, in conclusion, very, very, very good support weapon. Many characters can use this, not just Venti, but just plenty of supports out there. It will not be a good main DPS weapon though, so just keep that in mind. Next up, we have the Lion's Roar, which is a 4-star sword, and it's very basic. Increases the damage against opponents that are affected by Pyro or Electro by 20%. Now this is a very basic weapon, and you could use it on just about any main DPS could be okay, like a Kaching. I'm guessing it's also on here because Kuki Shinobu is on the banner and she is Electro, but you wouldn't really use this on her because she's more of a healer. She's a healer, not a DPS. So this weapon has very limited use. Not really the best weapon. There are definitely much better 4-star swords out there. So let's look at the next Claymore weapon. This one is a new weapon. It has Elemental Mastery as its substat, and it has the Desert Pavilion effect. Let's check this out. The following effect will trigger every 10 seconds. The equipping character will gain 24% of their elemental mastery as bonus attack for 12 seconds. With nearby party members gaining 30% of this buff for the same duration. Multiple instances of this weapon can allow this buff to stack. This effect will still trigger even if the character is not on the field. So this is actually a pretty decent weapon for Sayu, who is also on this banner. Definitely can see the synergy there, since Sayu is a character that you do want to build elemental mastery on. Both elemental mastery and attack, so you'll get both of the benefits, since that'll affect her healing and her damage. This could also be somewhat useful on Dori, if you are one of the few people building her. But this is definitely a support weapon, since it gives your fellow teammates it's a buff, but it's, you know, it's something. It's not like anything major, but it's better than nothing. Now we have the Favonius Lance. I believe they want you to use this with Candace, since she is on the banner. I mentioned this in the video where I was talking about Candace, but the Favonius Lance is basically a support weapon. The Favonius weapons basically all have the same effect, where If you crit, you get a chance to generate extra elemental particles. And this can occur every 12 seconds. Now, obviously, if you get it to Refinement 5, it has a 100% chance to proc. So you want to build a decent amount of crit rate on the character using that. So that can kind of like mess up your stats. So if you were to put this on Candace, you do want to have a nice balance. Like you do want to go hard on the HP for her since that's how she scales. And then energy recharge, of course, which this weapon provides a nice decent amount of. But then you also need to make sure you get crit rate so that you can actually get value from this weapon when you want the weapon effect to go off. Next up, we have the Sacrificial Fragments. This is a very solid weapon for Sucrose as well as many other support catalyst users. Basically, it's the same as any of the sacrificial weapons in the same set. You basically have a chance to reset your own cooldown once every 30 seconds. Obviously, with more refinement ranks, this becomes more consistent, gaining a much larger chance to reset your own elemental skill. This is good on Sucrose because it gives her 3 instances to be able to use her skill, which gives her a lot of energy and definitely more consistent burst time. Also, the elemental mastery on a character like Sucrose is great because it will increase the damage of the swirls. And obviously more refinements lower the cooldown, so you can do this more often. Now, we're just going to kind of quickly go over the Warbow because it, again, is the same basic effect as all the Favonius weapons. Again, this is another support weapon. So if you have a character that definitely just needs more energy particles to get their burst back faster, the Favonius weapons are great for that. That being said, we have a special bonus weapon from the event. This just got released today. It is the Missive Wind Spear. Now, this is a limited time event weapon, so if you're watching this video in the future, you cannot obtain this weapon. As far as I can see, they haven't really brought back any event weapons from previous events. But let's quickly look at the weapon. So you can get this at Refinement 5, so keep in mind that these values will be much higher, but basically it's pretty simple. Whenever you trigger an elemental reaction, any elemental reaction, you get an increase of attack by 12% and a straight up flat increase to your elemental mastery. Now, obviously, the first person that comes to mind is Cyno. This is a great free-to-play option if you are unlucky enough to pull for his signature weapon or just flat out don't have enough gems or you're not a whale. Again, this could be a pretty good weapon, and again, keep in mind the values of the 12% and the 48 elemental mastery will go up because you can get this from Refinement 5 basically for free. While it won't be the best weapon for him or basically any character in the game, it is a decent weapon and it's a solid weapon for not just Cyno, but it could also work on a lot of DPS polearm users. This could be okay for Zhao. It does have a substat of attack, so you will need to build up your character's crit rate and crit damage appropriately when building their artifacts, so keep that in mind. But it is a nice weapon to have, and it will definitely work on your Cyno. And with that being said, I just want to conclude that this is a very solid weapon banner if you are trying to get the Staff of the Scarlet Sands for a Cyno that you pulled, because then on the way to pulling for this weapon, you will be getting Elegies for the end, which is again an amazing support weapon. The 4 stars are also pretty good support weapons. That new Claymore, by the way, has definitely a lot of potential. Not just on Sai, but it could definitely be a good overall support Claymore. We'll definitely have to test that a bit more since that is a brand new weapon. Lion's War is okay. Favonius weapons definitely have a lot of universal usage as good support weapons, as long as you remember to build that crit rate. And Sacrificial Fragments does have niche uses, but it is a good weapon if you find a character that can definitely take advantage of it. So with that being said, let me know if you guys are planning to pull on this weapon banner. I don't have Cyno, so I'm probably going to skip. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.